Hi, I'm Mike Wilson, and the topic of this video, how to hit accurate iron shots. Stay tuned. Okay, we all know the feeling of hitting a great drive down the middle. You've got an iron shot to the green and you hit it really flush right next to the flag. That is a great feeling. Little tap in birdie and we're on to the next hole. Well, if that doesn't happen often enough for you, let's go over a few things that will help you become a more accurate iron player. First and foremost, we have to get your fundamentals secure and in check so that you know that your fundamentals aren't holding you back. If the ball position is wrong or your weight distribution is wrong, you're gonna have a hard time being a successful iron player. And second, we're gonna work on the fundamentals of the swing plane itself, how to get the club on plane coming down through impact, and really letting it go, letting it release, because I see a lot of my students struggling to hit iron shots accurately and really straight shots and solid shots because they're trying to guide it and they won't just let the club go and let it really fly through impact. So let's take on the first part first. Let's work on the fundamentals and then we'll get into the swing plane itself. Okay, for the fundamentals, we want to make sure that you've got the ball position correct and your weight distribution correct. So first with the ball position, we want the ball to be forward of center. Now we don't want it too far forward like a driver or that'll cause you to hit up on the ball. If this is dead center of my stance with this stick here, that might work great for a wedge, but it's too far back for a 5 or a 6 iron or even a 7 iron. You'll tend to get the club coming from the wrong angle and get the ball launching too low if it's too far back in your stance. So we do want it forward a little bit left here, but not as far forward as we would have a driver, something like this. So that allows you to get into a solid impact position where you're coming down, your weight's moving to your left side, and your club is descending or getting some good compression on the golf ball. That will help you to hit the sweet spot. I want to ensure that you hit the sweet spot. That's in the second part of this video, but that will help you hit the sweet spot. For your weight distribution at address, we do want to make sure you try to get 50-50. Try to get your weight even on your legs. Feel like it's 50-50 left and right. If it gets too far onto your back foot, that'll be more advantageous for a driver, but that'll help you hit up on it, but not hit down. If you tend to get too much left-sided, once again, that'll steepen your plane and help you to chop too much into the ground. So starting out 50-50 will help, and then as you wind it up, without a lot of drift to the right, you can stay more 50-50 as you get up to the top of your swing, and that will help you get back down into the ball with that weight transfer coming forward and help you once again hit down, compress the ball, and get the sweet spot onto the ball much more often. So now that we've covered how to set up to the ball, we have the ball position in the right place, we have the weight distribution correct so that you're not getting too far right or left during the golf swing. Let's take a look at the good stuff here, the fun stuff that really lets you hit it solid and straight to the pin. That really starts with the downswing plane when you first start your downswing. So when you're setting up to the ball and you get up here to the top of your swing, what happens next is critical for all golf shots, but when you're going to hit the ball solid and straight, this next position is huge, that your club starts to get down into the correct position halfway down. If you miss that opportunity coming down and you start to get the club working over excessively this way, or for some really low handicappers, excessively underneath, both of those will cause you to hit the ball inconsistently, one with a very steep angle of attack and one with very shallow, neither of which are advantageous to hitting really good solid iron shots time after time. However, if you get to the top here and your club starts to come down and shallow like this, into this slot as they call it, that first move, that first couple frames of the camera right here coming down, or frames of the video rather, coming down, that will ensure you get on the correct plane coming down. At least you have a chance at this point to get the club releasing. If that happens, you're up here to the top and that club starts to get into that slot right away, now you can start to work on coming into the ball on the right plane and really allowing the club face to close and release through impact. Because I find a lot of students are really struggling to let it release. They want to guide the ball. They want to sort of hang on to the club through impact, increasing their grip pressure, increasing the tension level. And that causes a lot of trouble with impact, because if the club can't close all the way, you won't make a divot, you won't hit the sweet spot, and the club is going to be going very slowly through impact. And one of the key things to hitting accurate iron shots is you really need to know that your club head speed is going to be consistent. Even if it's not super high speed, it needs to be a consistent speed for you then to pick the right club to get the ball to the target with the right distance. So if you're hanging on and your club's coming down and then you're just sort of grabbing it and holding on like this for dear life through impact, you're going to find it very hard to get the contact that you're looking for, and certainly the club head speed that gives you that consistency you're looking for. So once again, as you get here to the top, get in a mirror, kind of work on getting this club starting down, start to learn the feeling of getting that happening first. So critical. And from there, as it gets into this position here, you can tell I'm coming down on a good swing plane, and now I can let the club make its full rotation and release all the way through. And forearm release or club face release or rotation, it sort of has a bad name sometimes in the golf world these days, but I assure you, you have to let the club go. There's a couple different types of release, and we'll talk about those in future videos, but for right now, just know that the club must swing past your hands like this to get speed and allow the club head to close. If it doesn't, you just won't hit solid shots. Okay, to keep going with this idea of letting the club fly through impact and really release solidly, it's just imperative that you allow the club to come through this area and make its full rotation all the way through. Because if you don't let the club go and be closing as you strike the ball, you won't hit the sweet spot very often. And I certainly don't want you to hit the golf ball with your face closed. We don't want the club coming in and hitting the ball in this position. But we do want the club to be closing and making its full rotation all the way through, because that helps you ensure that your club head speed is going to be high. You're going to have a full release all the way through. And you just can't take a divot unless the club is closing, because the leading edge will not get into the ground if you don't allow the club to close all the way as it goes through. And don't be afraid of hooking. You're not going to hook the ball just because you're letting the club close. It's coming down and closing like this. When you strike the ball, it's going to be square and then continuing to move on through in a closed position. But if it doesn't do that, like I said, you just won't make a divot. You won't hit a solid shot. You'll end up hitting thin shots, balls off to the right, very weak shots all of the time. So as you go work first on the plane to get into here, now the next part, teach yourself to allow the club to rotate and close and swing freely. You're going to have to loosen your grip pressure. You're going to have to allow your arms to go and hit some small shots. Get in there and just let that club release and get a good flow in there. You can see I took a nice divot with that shot because I allowed the club to make its full rotation all the way through. Okay, in summary, you can see it's a two-step process. You really have to get the setup figured out and then get the plane and release figured out to be successful. I really encourage you to do a lot of work in a mirror, because it's so important that you see what's happening in the mirror, and then you can match that the visual that you see in a mirror to the feel of what's going on in your hands and arms and the club rotation. A lot of students simply won't let the club go and rotate, but they haven't really done the work to figure out what that feels like. And I know a lot of my students tell me there's a lot of grip pressure going on in there when they're trying to hit the ball straight. And it's important you get in the mirror and work on these things so that you can match the visual to the feel, because there's a lot of times where people just don't really understand how loose they need to hold the club. And if you're not letting it go freely, it's not going to release. You can try to force it with brute force to muscle your arms over, but trust me, it won't work. The club will be going very slowly, and your contact is still going to be poor and inconsistent. You have to get the club on plane so you can let it go and let the club swing. And just remember, releasing the club is simply letting the club swing from the right side of your body to the left side and allowing the club face to close as it goes through. You know, letting the club face close, I want to go over this point again because it's so important you know that it's okay to let the club face close going through impact. You don't have to try to just turn and hang on to the club and try to guide the ball down to your target line. Learn to let it go, and you'll be surprised that if the swing plane is right and you let it go, your club face will come back and be nice and square. So many times, it'll shock you how often it's square at impact and how straight that ball will go. Okay, thanks so much for watching this video. If it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.